The Surrender Rule, written and published by Ngasline. Most people think surrender means weakness, but what if it's the most powerful strategy for transforming your entire life? What I'm about to reveal is the revolutionary blueprint of surrender, a counterintuitive approach that turns letting go into your ultimate weapon of personal transformation. This isn't about giving up. This is about understanding surrender as a sophisticated martial art of the mind, where releasing control becomes the most strategic move you'll ever make. You'll discover how to weaponize surrender, decode the hidden psychology of resistance, and create an internal ecosystem so powerful that your biggest dreams manifest the moment you stop forcing them into existence. Imagine having a life strategy so refined that the universe begins to work on your behalf the instant you stop fighting its natural flow, where emotional freedom, spiritual alignment, and personal success become inevitable outcomes of your ability to let go. From understanding the paradox of divine timing to mastering surrender in relationships, career, and personal well-being, this is your complete guide to becoming someone who doesn't just survive life, but dances with its most unpredictable rhythms. If you're ready to stop controlling and start trusting, prepare for a journey that will permanently upgrade how you interact with yourself, your goals, and the infinite potential waiting just beyond your resistance. Understanding the paradox of surrender. The concept of surrender often brings up mixed emotions and misconceptions. Many associate it with weakness, defeat, or giving up on their dreams. However, true surrender represents one of the most powerful forces in the universe, the ability to release resistance and allow life to flow naturally. When we understand the paradox of surrender, we begin to see that letting go actually brings us closer to everything we desire. Think of surrender like a river's flow. Water doesn't force its way through obstacles. It naturally finds the path of least resistance. When meeting a boulder, it doesn't stop or fight. It simply flows around it, continuing its journey effortlessly. This same principle applies to our lives. When we try to control every outcome and force our way through challenges, we create resistance that blocks the natural flow of abundance and opportunities. The difference between giving up and surrendering lies in the energy behind the action. Giving up comes from a place of defeat, hopelessness, and resignation. It's a passive state where we abandon our dreams because we believe they're impossible to achieve. Surrender, on the other hand, stems from a place of trust, wisdom, and inner strength. It's an active choice to release our grip on how things should unfold while maintaining faith in the ultimate outcome. Science offers fascinating insights into why surrender works. Research in quantum physics shows that the observer affects the observed reality. When we fixate on specific outcomes with anxiety and attachment, we actually create resistance at the quantum level. However, when we maintain a state of relaxed awareness and trust, we allow quantum possibilities to align in our favor. This explains why our most significant breakthroughs often come when we stop trying so hard and simply let go. The human nervous system also plays a crucial role in the surrender process. When we're in a state of control and resistance, our sympathetic nervous system activates the fight, or flight response. This creates tension, stress, and blocks our access to creative solutions. Through surrender, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest mode. This state allows for clarity, intuition, and inspired action to emerge naturally. Understanding surrender requires us to recognize that we are part of a larger intelligence at work. Just as our bodies know how to heal a cut without our conscious intervention, life has an inherent wisdom that knows how to bring about our highest good. Our role isn't to micromanage every detail, but to align with this greater intelligence through trust and acceptance. Consider how often the best things in life come to us unexpectedly, when we weren't forcing or struggling to make them happen. That perfect job opportunity, relationship, or creative breakthrough often appears when we've released our attachment to how things should be. This isn't coincidence. It's the paradox of surrender in action. By letting go of control, we create space for life to bring us what we truly need, often in ways far better than we could have planned. The practice of surrender doesn't mean we become passive observers in our lives. Instead, it allows us to take inspired action from a place of flow rather than force. We remain committed to our goals while releasing attachment to specific outcomes. This balance of active participation and peaceful acceptance creates the optimal conditions for manifestation. The psychology of resistance. Resistance is a natural human response that often manifests as an invisible wall between us and our desires. We create elaborate mental and emotional barriers that prevent us from experiencing the very things we claim to want. This paradoxical behavior stems from our deep-seated fears, limiting beliefs, and past experiences that have shaped our perception of what's possible. When we examine resistance closely, we discover that it typically emerges from our need for control and certainty. Our minds create intricate patterns of self-sabotage, disguised as protection mechanisms. These patterns might include procrastination, perfectionism, overthinking, or creating unnecessary drama in our lives. We often resist positive changes because the familiar, even if uncomfortable, feels safer than the unknown. The cost of holding on too tight to our desired outcomes is substantial. This rigid grip creates tension in our bodies, minds, and spirits, blocking the natural flow of energy and opportunities. When we desperately cling to specific results, we actually push them away. This phenomenon occurs because our resistance creates a frequency of lack and desperation rather than openness and receptivity. Our resistance patterns often operate beneath our conscious awareness. We might say we want a loving relationship while unconsciously pushing away potential partners. We might claim we want financial abundance while harboring deep-seated beliefs about money being the root of all evil. These contradictions create internal conflict that manifests as external obstacles. Understanding our resistance requires honest self-reflection. We must observe our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors without judgment. When we notice ourselves making excuses, feeling anxious about positive changes, or sabotaging our progress, we're witnessing resistance in action. These moments provide valuable opportunities for growth and transformation. The body often holds physical manifestations of resistance. Tension headaches, tight shoulders, digestive issues, and other physical symptoms can be signals of psychological resistance. By becoming aware of these physical cues, we can better identify when we're blocking our own progress and take steps to release these patterns. Resistance also shows up in our language and self-talk. Phrases like "I can't," "it's impossible," or "that's just how things are" reveal our underlying resistance to change and growth. Our stories about why things won't work become self-fulfilling prophecies that reinforce our resistance patterns. The path to overcoming resistance begins with awareness and acceptance. Instead of fighting against our resistance, we can acknowledge its presence and understand its protective intent. This compassionate approach allows us to gradually loosen our grip on control and open ourselves to new possibilities. Working with resistance requires patience and persistence. Each time we notice ourselves resisting, we have an opportunity to choose differently. We can practice sitting with uncomfortable feelings rather than immediately trying to fix or change them. This practice builds our capacity to stay present with uncertainty and change. By understanding the psychology of resistance, we can begin to recognize it as a natural part of the human experience rather than a personal failing. This awareness allows us to work with our resistance more effectively, gradually releasing our need for control and creating space for new possibilities to enter our lives. As we learn to identify and release our resistance patterns, we naturally align ourselves with the flow of life, making room for effortless attraction and manifestation. The art of divine timing. Time is perhaps one of humanity's greatest sources of frustration and anxiety. We constantly push against it, trying to bend it to our will, forcing outcomes before their natural ripening point. Yet, the art of divine timing teaches us that everything unfolds exactly when it should, not a moment sooner or later than necessary. When we attempt to force outcomes before their natural time, we often create resistance and obstacles that wouldn't otherwise exist. Think of a flower bud. No amount of pulling at its petals will make it bloom faster. In fact, Such forceful action only damages the bud and prevents it from reaching its full potential. The same principle applies to our goals, dreams, and desires. Divine timing operates on a different wavelength than our human schedules and deadlines. It follows natural rhythms and cycles that have been perfected over millennia. Just as nature knows exactly when to transition from winter to spring, when seeds should sprout, and when fruit should ripen, there is an inherent wisdom in the timing of our life events. Understanding and aligning with divine timing requires a profound trust in the universe's process. This trust isn't blind faith, but rather an acknowledgement of a greater order at work. When we observe nature, we see that everything happens in perfect sequence. The sun rises and sets, seasons change, and life cycles continue without our intervention or control. The universe operates on a principle of perfect orchestration. Every event, person, and circumstance must align for the optimal outcome to manifest. Sometimes, what appears to be a delay is actually a careful arrangement of elements working in our favor. That job offer that didn't come through immediately might have been waiting for better conditions, more suitable colleagues, or a more advantageous market situation. Learning to recognize and respect divine timing requires developing patience and discernment. It's about understanding the difference between inspired action and forced action. Inspired action flows naturally and feels effortless, while forced action feels strained and often leads to burnout and frustration. When we act in alignment with divine timing, doors open naturally, resistance diminishes, and synchronicities increase. This principle extends beyond individual achievements to relationships, business ventures, and personal growth. Often, we meet the right person only after we've learned certain life lessons or developed specific qualities. Business opportunities manifest when we've gained the necessary experience and wisdom to handle them successfully. Personal breakthroughs occur when we've built the foundation to sustain them. Divine timing also teaches us about the value of preparation periods. What might feel like waiting is often a crucial time of inner growth and development. During these apparent lulls, we're being prepared for the next phase of our journey. Just as an athlete trains before a competition, these preparation periods strengthen our capacity to handle future opportunities and challenges. The art of divine timing invites us to release our rigid expectations about when things should happen. Instead of forcing our way through life, we can learn to move with the natural current of events. This doesn't mean becoming passive or giving up on our dreams. Rather, it means taking aligned action while remaining open to the wisdom of timing. By surrendering to divine timing, we free ourselves from the exhausting cycle of pushing and forcing. We begin to notice the subtle signs and guidances that show us when to act and when to wait. This awareness leads to more graceful manifestations and outcomes that often exceed our original expectations. Emotional freedom through surrender. The journey to emotional freedom begins with a fundamental understanding that our emotions are not our enemies, but rather messengers carrying important information about our inner world. When we resist or suppress our emotions, we create a barrier between ourselves and true emotional liberation. The practice of surrender offers a powerful pathway to release emotional baggage and experience genuine freedom. Emotional baggage accumulates through years of holding on to past hurts, disappointments, and unmet expectations. Like carrying heavy suitcases on a long journey, this emotional weight drains our energy and prevents us from moving forward with lightness and ease. Through surrender, we learn to set down these burdensome emotions and trust in our natural capacity for healing. The power of acceptance plays a crucial role in emotional freedom. When we accept our emotions without judgment, we create space for transformation. This doesn't mean we approve of negative situations or resign ourselves to unfavorable circumstances. Instead, acceptance allows us to acknowledge our current emotional state while remaining open to positive change. By accepting what is, we paradoxically enable ourselves to move toward what could be. Building emotional resilience through surrender involves developing a new relationship with our feelings. Instead of fighting against emotional waves, we learn to float with them. This approach requires trust in our innate ability to process and integrate emotional experiences. When challenging emotions arise, rather than immediately seeking to change or fix them, we practice sitting with them in awareness. This presence often naturally leads to resolution and release. The practice of emotional surrender also involves letting go of the need to control how others feel or respond to us. Many of us carry the weight of trying to manage others' emotional states, which creates unnecessary stress and strain in our relationships. By surrendering this need for control, we free ourselves to experience authentic emotional connections while respecting others' emotional autonomy. Through surrender, we discover that emotional freedom doesn't mean never experiencing difficult emotions. Instead, it means developing the capacity to move through our emotional landscape with grace and wisdom. We learn to recognize that emotions, like weather patterns, naturally come and go. Our role is not to control the weather, but to develop reliable shelter through self-compassion and understanding. The process of emotional surrender also involves releasing old stories and beliefs that no longer serve us. These narratives often keep us trapped in recurring emotional patterns. By surrendering our attachment to these stories, we create space for new, more empowering perspectives to emerge. This release allows us to experience emotions as they truly are, temporary states rather than permanent identities. As we practice emotional surrender, we develop a deeper trust in our ability to handle whatever feelings arise. This trust becomes the foundation of emotional resilience. We no longer need to brace against potential emotional pain or protect ourselves from vulnerability. Instead, we remain open to the full spectrum of human emotion, knowing that our surrender practice provides the support we need to navigate any emotional experience. Emotional freedom through surrender ultimately leads to a more peaceful and authentic way of being. We no longer waste energy fighting against our emotional reality or trying to maintain a facade of constant positivity. Instead, we embrace the natural ebb and flow of our emotional life, trusting that each feeling serves a purpose in our growth and evolution. The Surrender Meditation Method. Meditation serves as one of the most powerful tools for practicing surrender, allowing us to release control and connect with the present moment. The surrender meditation method differs from traditional meditation practices because its primary focus isn't on clearing the mind or achieving a specific state of consciousness. Instead, it emphasizes the gentle art of letting go and allowing whatever arises to simply be. The foundation of surrender meditation begins with creating a sacred space where you feel safe to release control. This could be a quiet corner in your home, a peaceful spot in nature, or any environment where you feel comfortable fully relaxing. As you settle into your practice, start by acknowledging your current state without judgment. Notice any tension, resistance, or desire to control your experience, and simply observe these sensations with curiosity. A key element of the surrender meditation method is the breath. Rather than trying to control your breathing, allow it to flow naturally. Observe how your body breathes itself, much like it does when you're sleeping. This natural rhythm serves as a perfect metaphor for surrender. Your body knows exactly what to do when you step out of its way. Throughout your meditation, thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations will arise. Instead of trying to push them away or change them, practice saying yes to whatever emerges. This radical acceptance creates a profound shift in your relationship with experience. When a worry about the future appears, rather than engaging with it or trying to solve it, simply acknowledge its presence and let it float by like a cloud in the sky. The surrender meditation method also incorporates gentle body awareness. As you sit in meditation, scan your body for areas of tension or resistance. Rather than trying to force these areas to relax, bring gentle attention to them and allow them to soften in their own time. This practice helps develop trust in your body's natural wisdom and healing capabilities. Another powerful aspect of surrender meditation is the practice of offering. Throughout your session, mentally offer up your concerns, desires, and attachments to a higher power, the universe, or whatever resonates with your belief system. This act of offering creates a profound sense of relief and opens the door for divine guidance and support. To deepen your practice, incorporate surrender statements or mantras that resonate with you. Simple phrases like "I release and let go," "I trust in divine timing," or "all is well" can help anchor your consciousness in a state of surrender. These statements serve as gentle reminders when you notice yourself slipping into control patterns. The beauty of the surrender meditation method lies in its flexibility. While it's beneficial to establish a regular practice time, perhaps starting with 10-15 minutes daily, the principles can be applied throughout your day. Whether you're stuck in traffic, facing a challenging situation at work, or dealing with relationship issues, you can pause, breathe, and practice surrender in any moment. As you cultivate this practice, you'll notice subtle shifts in your relationship with life. Things that once triggered stress or anxiety might begin to flow more easily. You'll develop an innate trust in the unfolding of events and a deeper sense of peace with uncertainty. The surrender meditation method becomes not just a daily practice, but a way of being that transforms your entire experience of life. Like any skill, surrender meditation deepens with practice. Some days will feel easier than others, and that's perfectly normal. The key is to approach your practice with gentleness and compassion, allowing it to unfold naturally without forcing or striving for particular outcomes. Through consistent practice, you'll discover that surrender becomes your natural state, and life begins to flow with remarkable ease and grace. Surrender in relationships. The journey of surrender takes on profound significance when applied to our relationships. Many of us unknowingly suffocate our connections with others through excessive control, fear, and attachment to specific outcomes. The art of surrender in relationships begins with releasing our grip on how we believe others should behave, think, or feel. When we attempt to control our relationships, we create an environment of tension and resistance. This might manifest as constantly checking on a partner's whereabouts, trying to change someone's habits, or becoming overly invested in others' life choices. These controlling behaviors stem from our own insecurities and fear of loss, yet they often create the very situations we're trying to avoid. True surrender in relationships means allowing others to be exactly who they are. It means accepting their journey, their choices, and their timing without attempting to manipulate or direct their path. This acceptance creates space for authentic connections to flourish. When we release our need to control, we open ourselves to experiencing relationships as they naturally unfold, with all their beautiful imperfections and unexpected turns. Building trust through surrender requires us to face our deepest fears about abandonment, rejection, and vulnerability. It asks us to believe in the natural flow of relationships rather than forcing them into predetermined molds. This trust extends not only to others, but also to ourselves and our ability to handle whatever comes our way. The practice of surrender in relationships also involves releasing attachment to specific outcomes. Whether in romantic partnerships, friendships, or family relationships, we often hold tight to how we believe things should be. We might have specific expectations about marriage timing, career choices, or life decisions of those we love. Letting go of these expectations allows relationships to evolve organically, often leading to outcomes far better than we could have planned. Authentic connections emerge naturally when we surrender our need to control. Without the pressure of expectations and demands, people feel safe to be themselves around us. This authenticity creates deeper, more meaningful relationships based on trust and mutual respect rather than obligation or fear. In romantic relationships, surrender means letting go of the idea of the perfect partner or the perfect relationship. It means accepting our partner's humanity, including their flaws and differences. This acceptance doesn't mean tolerating harmful behavior. Rather, it means seeing and accepting the truth of who someone is without trying to change them. For parents, surrender might mean releasing control over children's choices and trusting their journey. For friends, it could mean accepting when relationships evolve or change form. In professional relationships, surrender involves releasing attachment to specific responses or outcomes from colleagues or clients. The practice of surrender in relationships also requires us to release past hurts and future fears. Many of us carry wounds from previous relationships that cause us to hold tight to control as a form of protection. By surrendering these old patterns and trusting in our resilience, we create space for new, healthier relationships to enter our lives. Surrender in relationships is an ongoing practice. There will be moments when fear arises and the urge to control returns. The key is to recognize these moments as opportunities to deepen our practice of surrender, to breathe through the discomfort, and to choose trust over control repeatedly. Through the consistent practice of surrender in our relationships, we create space for love to flow naturally. We experience the joy of authentic connections unburdened by expectations and control. Our relationships become sources of growth and joy rather than stress and struggle. This is the true power of surrender in creating and maintaining meaningful relationships that enrich our lives. Financial abundance and surrender. Money often represents one of the most challenging areas for people to surrender control. Our relationship with finances tends to be deeply intertwined with feelings of security, self-worth, and survival instincts. When we grip tightly to money concerns, we create energetic blocks that prevent the natural flow of abundance into our lives. The key to financial prosperity lies in understanding and applying the surrender principle to our monetary mindset. The first step in surrendering financial control is acknowledging our deep-seated money beliefs. Many of us carry generational patterns and limiting beliefs about wealth, such as money is hard to come by or rich people are greedy. These thoughts create resistance to receiving abundance. By recognizing these patterns, we can begin to release them through conscious surrender. The flow state of wealth operates much like a river. When we try to dam up or control the flow, we create stagnation. Instead, practicing surrender allows money to move freely both in and out of our lives. This doesn't mean being careless with finances, but rather trusting in the natural ebb and flow while maintaining wise stewardship of our resources. Attracting prosperity effortlessly requires a shift from a scarcity mindset to one of abundance. This shift happens naturally through surrender. When we release our death grip on financial outcomes, we open ourselves to unexpected opportunities and creative solutions. Money begins to appear from unexpected sources, and financial doors open that we never knew existed. A crucial aspect of financial surrender involves releasing the need to know exactly how money will come to us. Many people block their abundance by insisting it must arrive through specific channels, such as a particular job or investment. By surrendering the how, we allow the universe to work through infinite possibilities to bring us what we need. The practice of financial surrender also includes giving freely without expectation of return. This might seem counterintuitive, but generous, giving creates a powerful energy of abundance. When we trust enough to share our resources, we demonstrate faith in the endless supply available to us. This attitude attracts more prosperity into our lives. Understand that financial surrender doesn't mean becoming passive about money matters. Instead, it means taking inspired action without attachment to outcomes. We still budget, save, invest, and work diligently, but we do so from a place of trust rather than fear. We make decisions based on inner guidance rather than panic or greed. Physical actions can support our practice of financial surrender. Creating space in our wallets, organizing our finances, and maintaining clean money environments all signal our readiness to receive. These actions demonstrate trust in abundance while showing respect for the resources we currently have. Developing a grateful attitude for current financial circumstances, regardless of their state, is another powerful aspect of surrender. Gratitude shifts our focus from what's lacking to what's present, creating an energetic state that attracts more abundance. This includes being thankful for bills as they represent services received and our ability to participate in the economic exchange. The ultimate goal of financial surrender is achieving a state of peace with money. When we no longer worry constantly about finances, we free up enormous amounts of energy that can be directed toward creative endeavors and joyful living. This peaceful state naturally attracts more abundance, creating a positive cycle of prosperity and trust. Financial surrender is a practice that develops over time. Each day presents new opportunities to choose trust over fear, abundance over scarcity, and flow over control. As we consistently apply these principles, we begin to experience the effortless attraction of prosperity that comes through true surrender. Career success through surrender. The journey to career success often feels like an uphill battle, with constant pressure to control every aspect of our professional lives. Yet, the most profound career transformations occur when we learn to surrender to our inner guidance and trust the natural unfolding of our path. This chapter explores how releasing the need for control in your career can lead to unprecedented success and fulfillment. The traditional approach to career development typically involves rigid planning, intense competition, and relentless pursuit of predetermined goals. While having direction is important, clutching too tightly to specific outcomes can blind us to unexpected opportunities and limit our potential for growth. When we surrender to our intuition and remain open to possibilities, we often discover paths that are far more aligned with our authentic selves than anything we could have planned. Your intuition serves as an internal compass, guiding you toward opportunities that resonate with your true nature. This inner knowing manifests as subtle feelings, recurring thoughts, or sudden inspirations. By learning to trust and follow these intuitive nudges, you naturally align yourself with career opportunities that suit your talents and values. This alignment creates a flow state where work becomes less of a struggle and more of an expression of your authentic self. Letting go of professional outcomes doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent. Instead, it means releasing attachment to specific results while remaining fully engaged in your work. This approach allows you to focus on delivering value and expressing your creativity without being paralyzed by fears of failure or success. When you surrender the need to control every aspect of your career, you become more adaptable, innovative, and resilient in the face of challenges. Building an aligned career path requires a delicate balance between taking inspired action and allowing things to unfold naturally. This might mean pursuing additional training when it feels right, changing directions when your intuition guides you, or saying no to opportunities that don't resonate with your inner wisdom. The key is to remain open to the signs and signals that guide you toward your highest professional expression. Fear often keeps us trapped in unfulfilling careers or prevents us from taking necessary risks. Through surrender, we learn to acknowledge these fears without letting them control our decisions. This might mean starting a new business venture without knowing all the steps ahead or leaving a secure position to pursue a more meaningful path. When we trust in the process and our ability to handle whatever comes our way, we create space for extraordinary opportunities to emerge. Professional relationships also transform through the practice of surrender. When we release the need to control how others perceive us or manipulate situations for desired outcomes, we become more authentic in our interactions. This authenticity naturally attracts mentors, colleagues, and opportunities that align with our true path. Network building becomes less about strategic positioning and more about genuine connection and mutual growth. Success through surrender often looks different from conventional definitions of achievement. It might mean choosing fulfillment over status or work, life balance over rapid advancement. By releasing societal expectations and honoring your inner guidance, you create a career that not only provides financial stability, but also deeply satisfies your soul. This alignment naturally attracts opportunities and resources that support your professional growth. Career development is not a linear path, but a dynamic journey of growth and discovery. By surrendering to this natural evolution while remaining committed to your authentic expression, you create space for unexpected possibilities and genuine success to emerge. Trust that your career will unfold in perfect timing and remain open to the wisdom that guides you toward your highest professional potential. Physical well-being and surrender. The relationship between our physical well-being and our ability to surrender is profound, yet often overlooked. Many of us approach health and wellness with a militant mindset, forcing ourselves into strict regimens and fighting against our bodies rather than working in harmony with them. This adversarial relationship with our physical selves creates tension, stress, and ultimately, resistance to the very healing we seek. Our bodies possess an innate wisdom that we've largely forgotten to trust. This ancient intelligence knows exactly what it needs for optimal health, yet we've become disconnected from these internal signals through years of external conditioning. When we learn to surrender to our body's wisdom, we begin to hear its subtle messages more clearly. This might manifest as cravings for specific nutrients, natural impulses to move or rest, or intuitive knowing about what activities serve our highest good. The practice of surrender in physical well-being begins with deep acceptance of our current state. This doesn't mean resignation to poor health or giving up on improvement. Rather, it means acknowledging where we are without judgment or resistance. When we stop fighting against our current reality, we create space for natural healing to occur. This acceptance allows us to work with our bodies instead of against them. Physical healing through surrender often manifests in unexpected ways. Rather than forcing ourselves to follow rigid exercise routines or restrictive diets, we begin to naturally gravitate toward movement that feels good and nourishing foods that our bodies truly need. This might mean choosing a gentle walk when our culture tells us we should be doing high-intensity training, or eating intuitively rather than following the latest diet trend. The body responds remarkably well to this surrendered approach. When we release the stress of constant control and allow our natural healing mechanisms to function, we often see improvements in various aspects of our health. Sleep becomes more restful, digestion improves, and chronic tensions begin to release. This occurs because surrender allows our nervous system to shift from a state of fight or flight to one of rest, and digest where true healing can take place. Incorporating surrender into physical well-being also means letting go of our attachment to specific outcomes. While it's natural to have health goals, holding them too tightly can create stress that impedes progress. Instead, we can set intentions for our health while remaining open to how these intentions manifest. This might mean being willing to explore alternative healing approaches or being open to unexpected paths to wellness. The practice of body wisdom through surrender extends to medical care as well. While conventional medicine has its place, surrendering to our intuition might lead us to explore complementary approaches that resonate with our individual needs. This could include traditional healing practices, energy work, or other modalities that support our body's natural healing abilities. Pain and illness often carry important messages, and surrender allows us to listen to these messages rather than immediately trying to suppress them. By approaching physical challenges with curiosity rather than resistance, we can better understand what our bodies are trying to communicate and respond appropriately. This might mean making lifestyle changes, addressing emotional issues, or simply allowing ourselves more rest and recovery time. Through the practice of surrender, we develop a more harmonious relationship with our physical selves. We learn to trust our body's signals, honor our natural rhythms, and allow healing to unfold in its own time. This approach not only supports better physical health, but also creates a deeper sense of peace and acceptance in our relationship with our bodies, leading to truly holistic well-being. The spiritual aspects of surrender. The spiritual dimension of surrender represents one of the most profound and transformative aspects of the surrender rule. When we embrace spiritual surrender, we acknowledge that we are part of something vastly greater than ourselves, connected to an infinite source of wisdom, love, and guidance. This understanding fundamentally shifts our perspective from one of isolated struggle to one of supported flow within the grand tapestry of existence. At its core, spiritual surrender involves developing a deep trust in the divine universe or higher power, whatever name resonates with your personal beliefs. This trust isn't blind faith, but rather an experiential knowing that emerges through consistent practice and observation. As we surrender spiritually, we begin to notice the subtle synchronicities, messages, and guidance that have always been present but perhaps overlooked in our previous state of resistance and control. Developing spiritual surrender starts with acknowledging our current relationship with the divine. Many people maintain a transactional relationship with their higher power, approaching it only in times of need or crisis. True spiritual surrender invites us to develop a continuous, intimate connection that permeates every aspect of our lives. This might involve regular prayer, meditation, or simply maintaining an ongoing dialogue with the divine throughout our daily activities. The practice of spiritual surrender often challenges our ego's need for certainty and control. It asks us to trust in divine timing and wisdom, even when the path ahead seems unclear or contrary to our logical understanding. This surrender doesn't mean we become passive observers in our lives. Rather, we learn to co-create with the divine, allowing ourselves to be guided while remaining actively engaged in our journey. Faith plays a crucial role in spiritual surrender, but it's important to understand that this faith develops gradually through experience. As we practice surrender and witness the wisdom of divine timing and guidance in our lives, our faith naturally strengthens. This creates a positive feedback loop. The more we surrender, the more evidence we see of divine support, which in turn makes it easier to surrender more deeply. Spiritual alignment practices help facilitate this process of surrender. These might include spending time in nature, engaging in contemplative practices, or participating in ceremonies or rituals that feel meaningful to you. The key is to find practices that help you feel connected to something greater than yourself and that support your ability to trust and let go. One of the most beautiful aspects of spiritual surrender is how it transforms our relationship with uncertainty. Instead of seeing the unknown as something to fear or control, we begin to view it as a space of infinite possibility and potential. We learn to trust that even when we can't see the entire path, each step will be illuminated as we need it. Spiritual surrender also helps us develop discernment between our ego's desires and our soul's calling. As we deepen our connection with the divine, we become more attuned to genuine guidance and better able to distinguish it from fear-based thinking or societal conditioning. This clarity allows us to make choices that align with our highest good and the greater good of all. The practice of spiritual surrender ultimately leads to a profound sense of peace and freedom. When we truly trust in divine guidance and timing, we no longer feel the need to manipulate outcomes or control circumstances. We can rest in the knowing that we are always supported, always guided, and always exactly where we need to be on our journey. The surrender rule in daily life. The true power of surrender becomes most apparent when we integrate it into our everyday experiences. While the concept might seem abstract at first, its practical applications touch every aspect of our lives, from the moment we wake up to when we lay our heads down at night. The beauty of the surrender rule lies in its simplicity. It's not about adding more to our already busy lives, but rather about releasing what doesn't serve us. Consider Sarah, a working mother who struggled with constant anxiety about her daily schedule. She tried to control every minute of her day, creating elaborate plans and backup plans, only to feel frustrated when things inevitably went off course. When she learned to apply the surrender rule, she began each morning with a simple acknowledgement. I release my attachment to how this day should unfold. This small shift in perspective allowed her to respond to unexpected changes with grace, rather than resistance. The surrender rule transforms ordinary moments into opportunities for growth and peace. During your morning commute, instead of fighting against traffic, surrender to the present moment. Use this time for reflection, listening to uplifting content, or simply breathing deeply. When facing a challenging work situation, rather than forcing a solution, surrender to the wisdom of patience and allow answers to emerge naturally. Michael, a business owner, discovered the power of surrender in his professional life. After years of pushing aggressively for growth, he learned to trust his intuition and release his grip on outcomes. Surprisingly, this approach led to more organic opportunities and partnerships than his previous forceful strategies ever did. His clients sensed his authentic, relaxed approach, which naturally attracted more business. The surrender rule also works wonderfully in personal relationships. Instead of trying to control how others perceive you or behave, surrender to accepting them as they are. This creates space for genuine connections to flourish. One couple found that their arguments decreased significantly when they surrendered their need to be right and instead focused on understanding each other's perspectives. In health and wellness, surrender means listening to your body, rather than forcing it to conform to rigid expectations. It means eating when hungry, resting when tired, and moving when energized. This natural approach often leads to better health outcomes than strict, resistance-filled regimens. The success stories of those who embrace surrender in daily life are numerous and diverse. A writer who surrendered her perfectionism finally completed her novel. A student who released his anxiety about grades actually performed better in exams. An athlete who surrendered to her natural training rhythm achieved personal bests without burning out. Creating new surrender-based habits requires patience and practice. Start small, perhaps with your morning routine or your response to minor annoyances. Notice how different it feels to flow with life rather than against it. Pay attention to the reduced stress and increased joy that comes from releasing control. Surrender is not passive. It's an active choice to trust in the natural flow of life. It's about discerning when to take inspired action and when to step back and allow things to unfold. As you practice surrender in daily life, you'll discover that what once seemed like obstacles become opportunities for growth, and that what you desire often comes more easily when you stop trying to force it into existence. The daily application of surrender creates a life marked by ease, flow, and natural abundance. It transforms not just what we do, but how we do it, leading to more meaningful experiences and deeper satisfaction in all areas of life. Mastering the art of surrender. The journey to mastering surrender is an ongoing evolution that deepens with time and practice. As you progress along this path, you'll discover increasingly subtle and powerful ways to release control and align with the natural flow of life. The advanced practice of surrender involves developing an almost invisible skill, the ability to maintain complete presence while simultaneously letting go of all attachment to outcomes. One of the most sophisticated aspects of surrender mastery is developing what we might call active surrender. This seemingly paradoxical state allows you to remain fully engaged in life while maintaining an underlying current of deep acceptance and trust. You learn to take inspired action without forcing, to care deeply without clutching, and to desire without demanding. This delicate balance becomes your natural state of being rather than something you consciously practice. Advanced practitioners of surrender often report experiencing extended periods of flow state, where life seems to unfold with remarkable ease and synchronicity. In this state, opportunities appear at precisely the right moment, relationships deepen organically, and solutions emerge without struggle. The key to sustaining this flow lies in maintaining unwavering trust, even when external circumstances appear challenging or chaotic. The mastery of surrender also involves developing an acute awareness of subtle forms of resistance. You begin to notice the smallest tensions in your body, the slightest contractions in your energy field, and the most delicate forms of mental grasping. This refined awareness allows you to release resistance at increasingly deeper levels, creating more space for life's natural abundance to flow through you. Living in sustained surrender requires a profound shift in identity. You move beyond seeing yourself as a separate entity struggling against life to recognizing yourself as an integral part of the universal flow. This shift transforms your relationship with everything around you. Rather than approaching life as a series of challenges to overcome, you begin to experience it as a dance of co-creation with the universe. The sustainability of surrender mastery comes through understanding that it's not about maintaining a perfect state of letting go at all times. Instead, it's about developing the ability to quickly recognize when you've slipped into control mode and gently return to surrender. This creates a natural rhythm of release and renewal that becomes increasingly smooth and automatic over time. As your mastery deepens, you'll find yourself naturally embodying the principles of surrender in all areas of life. Decision-making becomes more intuitive, relationships flow with greater ease, and your creative expression becomes more authentic and powerful. You'll notice that your presence alone begins to influence others, inspiring them to trust more deeply in their own journey of surrender. The ultimate expression of surrender mastery is the ability to remain open and trusting in the face of life's greatest challenges. This doesn't mean you become passive or detached. Rather, you develop the capacity to stay present with whatever arises while maintaining an unshakable faith in the underlying perfection of life's unfolding. This level of mastery brings with it a profound sense of peace and an effortless ability to navigate life's complexities with grace and wisdom. True mastery of surrender transforms not only your personal experience, but also your impact on the world around you. As you embody this state of being, you naturally become a catalyst for positive change, inspiring others through your example of trust, acceptance, and flow. The ripple effects of your surrender extend far beyond your individual life, contributing to the collective evolution of consciousness and the greater good of all.